Walensky, one of your hosts for the Mindful Education Summit 2019, which is brought to you by the Awake Network and Mindful. In this session, we're interviewing Kathy Flynn-Somerville, who is a teacher on special assignment focusing on social emotional learning with an emphasis on mindfulness in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And Kathy has the amazing job of bringing mindfulness to a whole school district. So we're going to hear her story and learn some of the lessons from her experience. We're just going to dive in by asking Kathy to tell us how she got started doing mindfulness in schools.
Rona, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and share. I had begun mindfulness with the Pittsburgh Public Schools following 6 years or so of advocacy after I piloted mindfulness in my own classrooms as a classroom teacher. And I advocated through the school board and through the administrators and anyone who would listen, including the union, and got some traction over time. And there was a realization of a need for something for the students and for the adults pertaining to the social emotional learning. So I was very fortunate when I saw the posting. I was informed of the posting and I saw the posting in response to the realization of the need. And I was hired to do the job. I was trained through Mindful Schools, through the Greater Good Institute out of Berkeley. And I was also trained through the Power of Awareness with Jack and Tara Brock, and through the Mindful Meditation Teacher Certification Program. I had also gotten involved over time with mindfulness conferences and summits and participated more than once at the CARE retreat with Tish Jennings and Krista Turksma and the Cultivating Awareness and Resilience for Educators, which was really fabulous. The network has grown, my circle has grown, and it is spreading throughout the Pittsburgh Public Schools.
What I hear is you advocated for a very long time at the same time as you built up your skill set, and then those two things came together, a position was created and you were selected. There was a pilot project beforehand. And so what were you selected to do? Can you tell us what your job was when you first got the position?
When I first got the position, I will also share that I had data behind what I was talking about. I did collect data with the students who I was working with and with the staff. Through the union, I did a teacher leader program, and I was able to administer the professional quality of life assessment and collected data through that. From there, when I was hired by the school district, there was an agreement that I would come up with a plan, a 5-year plan, and this became a part of the district's strategic plan. I was assigned to get into the schools and to work into the schools. And through this was like an organic process. So through this organic process, what I did was I said, well, it's for the adults as well as the children. And I was told, no, it's all about the children. And I said, absolutely, it is all about the children, kind of. We need to take care of the adults because it's we adults who are affecting the children. So as a result, we came to terms with an agreement with addressing the needs of children and adults throughout the district, not only in the schools, but through central office and with the building administrators and with the social workers and the counselors and with the psychologists and the nurses and with the student data specialists and with the learning environment specialists and with the whole broad spectrum of adults working. So what I did was I started doing professional learning sessions, and I worked with the special ed department, and I worked in the general ed department, and it has just grown massively. with the training that the adults have had. From there, I went to the principal meetings, and I worked with the assistant superintendents as well in their networks. And with the principals, I did trainings with the assistant superintendent's participation as best as they could. That's so critical to have that involved, because if it's not valued from one administrator to another, you know how it goes. Yeah. So they put forth their best to participate and cooperate with the process. And it was funny along the way. They would tease me and joke with me about it. You know, oh, mindfulness, I'm being mindful. And as they became familiar, more and more familiar and deepen their knowledge with it, it's become far more not only respected, I think, but also the effect that people are feeling as a result of practice.
So Kathy, of course, we want to get to when you started working with students directly, but I want to explore a little more these trainings you did with all these varied adults in the system. How long were they, or were they varied in length?
The sessions I lead are with the adults are typically 45 minutes to 2 hours, 45-minute minimum. And I also work with the parents in the community as well, and do professional learning with them so they can experience it and know what the kids are talking about and reinforce in practice.
So tell us about the work you did outside of your own setting and outside of the pilot project, how you got started working with kids and what that looks like across a very large urban school district.
Yes, we have over 50 schools in our district. And what I needed to do was I needed to get in with the principal to allow the time for full professional development for the staff of the school. Whole professional development. Everybody show up and participate as best they can. Once we were able to schedule that, I would go into the school and deliver professional learning. And then shortly after that, typically, shortly after that, I would go into the school and I would begin working with the children. And if I went into a school that's grades K through 8, for example, I would go into the school, or I do go into the school, and I go from classroom to classroom to classroom to classroom to classroom. And I interrupt instruction for 10 to 15 minutes, and I deliver a lesson, delivering a lesson on a skill for the children and the staff to practice until I come back again the next week.
And how many times do you visit? Say you're in a school and you go to the first grade classroom and maybe do all this rounds, and you go to the second grade, visit for 10 or 15 minutes. How often do you come back to any given classroom? Over what period of time are you working with them?
I go back for 6 to 8 sessions, and I deliver a different lesson every time I go back. I do use the Mindful Schools curriculum, and then I have other curricula that I refer to as well. Depending on the needs of the classroom and the needs of the students in particular. Following my lesson, they practice until I return. They practice the skill. So if I do a practice of posture, of being still and quiet as best as we can, for just a short amount of time, that might be all that lesson might be. And then the next time I go back, we might focus on the breath or sounds around us. And then we focus for maybe 45 seconds, or we might focus for a minute and then extend it a little bit more the next time we meet as we start the lesson with the skills that have been taught. And then over time, the students, as well as the teacher, they might lead a brief session before class upon arrival and start embedding it into a way of being, into a way of doing business. So when the students walk into the classroom, Just sit back for a few moments to arrive. Notice what you're feeling. And let's begin. So those are ways to embed it for the students to arrive and for the teacher to arrive, as we know that critical pause between what's happening and how we respond to it really can be transformative. And being able to be with whatever arises. I do request that the adults do their best to participate and cooperate when I walk into the room where instruction is stopped. Everyone puts everything down and we sit back. And I do not operate on a schedule because this is not a scheduled event. This is something that's totally accessible anytime, anywhere. And I never know how long the lesson is going to be because I don't know what's behind the door when I reach for the handle and walk in.
So can you give us a sense, before we talk about the impact this is having, a sense of how many schools you have worked with since this project began, and actually when it began, when you started working in schools? How many years has it been, or months?
This is my second full year in schools. The first year was slow, so it's my third year in the position. The first year was slow to launch because of the planning and discussing and preparation and getting the word out. The word is not even out to all schools yet as we get into the third year because of the massive size of our district.
How many schools have you worked in?
So far, I've worked in 10 schools. And I've worked at one school that's 6 to 12, and all the others were K to 8 that I've been through so far. With I count the people when I go into a class too, over 1,400 people so far in terms of students and staff, and the teachers alone, not even all the other professional groups that I had mentioned before.
So what's the impact? Tell us some numbers you have, some stories you have, what people are saying.
Most people love it. Not everyone does. Some people really don't like it at all. They'll tell me, I can't sit still. And then we'll do a sit. And they'll be still. And then I'll ask them, I noticed that you were still this time. Did you notice that? And they'll tell me, yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to do it. And I say, and I would ask, was it hard for you? And they said, not really. So I have these snippets here and there, information that the students and the adults share. There's such a longing for it. When I deliver a lesson, the students will participate, the adults will participate pretty much. Once in a while I have resistance. For example, I had a teacher who would go to the back of the class and sit up on a stool and swing her feet and text on her phone. And I would repeatedly invite her to join us, please. And it just wouldn't happen. But that goes with the territory too. And I do approach this as a free will opportunity. Okay, so who am I to judge why somebody does not cooperate or participate? I don't even look for buy-in because this is so deeply personal. And anyone can talk to me about it. I don't address it as anything like counseling or therapy because it's not counseling or therapy. Like I mentioned, it's a way of being. And if it's something that that might provide you a sense of wellness or the skill to be with anything that comes up differently than being reactive or are really affected in such a hard way. it might be something useful. And if it's not useful to you, that's fine. And if it's not useful for you now, maybe later, maybe not on my time, right? On your own time, maybe. But you'll have the knowledge about it by cooperating and participating as best as you can.
So can you share with us what's next? You're one person, a teacher on special assignment. They're 5 days in a week. When you have how many 8-week periods there are in a school year, it's about 4 or 5. You can't do all of Pittsburgh schools probably on your lonesome. What's next?
I don't know yet. My superintendent, I talked to him in December, and I said, we've got to grow this. We've got to grow this. And people have approached me. The teachers have approached me. People outside the district have approached and said, I want to be part of your team. It takes more than reading about it. People are curious. They're excited. And are they delving into practice? Well, I don't know. You tell me, and how's it working for you? And those are important things to consider. And to get it in the budget, that's out of my league. I don't have an answer to any of that. But if I could step back and talk a little bit about what the kids are saying about this, because I do have some data. Within the past couple years, I've done surveys, and I have over 1,370 surveys from the students. And I compiled the information, and what I find interesting that I want to be sure to share with you is 83.6% of the students that were surveyed think that more children should.
A mindfulness practice is really helpful when you have to deal with all these disruptions.
I do my best to live in it, and it's really becoming less and less of an effort to live this way because I practice so much. It's really accessible, and I don't even feel a certain way with all the interruptions. I'm okay. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good. But I do want to share some data from the children. And this is some information I compiled. 83.6% of the children who were surveyed, so if they thought that more children should learn about mindfulness. That is 1,151 of the students who were surveyed. Those are a lot of voices. The other thing I do want to share is I asked who has taught or shared about mindfulness with someone else. 39% of those students surveyed said that they have taught someone else. And I asked them in a class, I'll say, who loves the way they're feeling right now? Or sometimes I might say, who thinks they know someone who might like to feel kind of like how you're feeling right now? And all these hands go up. And I say, who are you going to teach? And then I start calling on the kids. And they tell me, Mom, Dad, Grandma, my brother, my sister, my aunt. And they tell me all these people. That's 537 people who say that they share about mindfulness with others. What a ripple effect. 82.6% of those students said that they found mindfulness helpful. This is the stuff that matters to me. That's over 1,000 kids. 1,137. The strongest response was 84.25%, or 1,159 students definitely thought that more adults should learn about mindfulness. So So we got to listen to those children, the adults and the kids. Anybody with a beginner's mind, with an open mind, who wants to participate or cooperate with the process might find it beneficial. Maybe. Maybe in subtle ways, maybe in stronger ways.
So what advice? We have thousands of people watching our Mindfulness Education Summit, lots of individual teachers around the country and the world who want to bring mindfulness to schools.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you've learned about how to do that and what works and what doesn't work, and just your wisdom on the subject. You've got a lot.
I think to be very visible. Be very visible and strengthen your own practice. Practice, practice, practice. Live it. Make it evident. Be vulnerable. Show your vulnerability. And narrate a little bit of what you're doing. And I will tell you that others may find it really weird, and others may find it, oh, she's something. And then once they experience it, I can see a little bit of a transformation. Something that I would also encourage is to get the school board, notify the school board, speak to the school board about it. Keep it secular in public education. Oh my gosh, you do not want to bring in a singing bowl. You want to use a chime. And you don't want to make any religious references. And keep it secular in everything that you're saying and doing in public education. And then your own personal beliefs are your own personal beliefs. But keep it secular. And I think that there might be some argument to that, because I have been in circles where there's argument about it. And let those arguments be for it to work in public education. Yeah. I also do provide a parent letter to go home. And I offer to speak at the parent school community council meetings and talk to the parents. When there is opposition, and there is sometimes, they'll say, I don't want my I don't want my child participating in that. Word has gone to the principal, and the principal said, oh, well, you need to talk to Dr. Flynn-Somerville. She'll explain it to you. And they've said, oh no, we don't want to talk to Dr. Flynn-Somerville. We don't want our grandchild participating. And arrangements were very quickly made for when I walk into the room, the child leaves and goes somewhere else for the amount of time that I'm in the class. And that's a very good resolution, because this, as I mentioned, this is by free will. It's an opportunity by free will, not forced. And it's like just a way of being, to become more compassionate and kind with each other, which is, oh my gosh, so very needed.
So you mentioned some really powerful things about how to take one's own commitment and grow it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The thing I heard very clearly was practice, 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 and be public. But it also seems like you did some pilots, you got the union involved, you did something a little more like advocacy, not just letting people know your opinion, but you somehow got bigger than your own small sphere. You got the attention, and you did it over 6 years. So what are some of the things you did to get some more attention?
The special ed director gave me her ear, and she actually gave me a little opening where she said, Kath, would you do professional learning in mindfulness for the special ed staff? She said 4 90-minute sessions in one day. And I said, oh yeah. The 4 90-minute sessions. And what I did with that information was I emailed the superintendent and the other central office administrators, the assistant superintendents. There were like 4 of them or so. And I invited them to attend. And I told them, no need to RSVP. If you're available, just show up. The 4th session was about to begin, and I heard click, 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 click. And I looked, and there was the superintendent at the time saying, all right, I'm here. And she was unwrapping her scarf around her neck. And I looked at her, I said, well, I can't believe you showed up. And she said, well, you invited me. And she said, I'm here for an hour. I said, it's a 90-minute session. She said, I'm here for an hour. I said, well, I'm so glad you're here. Please join us. And she did. And then I got word later that she really enjoyed it. So that was one example. Another thing I did was after meeting with the school board, and I was also at community meetings speaking about this, about public education, and I was involved in community meetings where the new superintendent would go around and meet and greet people. And he is a former football player, pro football player. And I said to him, you should know as well as I do the importance of mindfulness, the importance of being present in the here and now as a professional athlete. And he said, absolutely. And I said, well, we have to bring this to the children and to the staff, whole district. And I caught his ear. And he said, call to me to set up a meeting with me. So we set up a meeting with him and the director of student services. And when I met with them, I put out the time. And we had a session during the meeting. I said, all right, are you ready? So actually putting it into action, not just talking about it, but doing it so they can experience it. And then we talk about the experience and what you notice. They noticed how long the meeting was, or a minute is, or how long it can be. They realized how unsettled their thoughts are because they're all over the place with so much to do. So having those opportunities for experience and providing those opportunities for experience. And I do that with the parents and community as well when I meet with them. We do practices. They're brief.
What I hear you saying is, you know, it takes a certain amount of determination. In the East Coast, we would say chutzpah to get, you know, take advantage of opportunities, go where the water flows, and make the most of every opportunity you have, is what I'm hearing.
I think so. I think so. And now when they see me, when people see me, I know I'm a trigger for them because they tell me mindfulness, mindfulness. And that's a very good thing. So I make it a point to be visible. I would even position myself. The first school I went to, the principal said, you can set up to work out of here. And she took me to this classroom. And I said, well, I don't think that will be conducive to my work. And she said, oh. And we walked around and I said, how about here? How about if I hole up here? And it was in the teacher's room, where the copier is and where the bathrooms are. So she said, oh, really? I said, yeah. She said, all right. So the staff got to know me when they would come into, for any reason, and I would greet them. And I said, can I come to your classroom? When can I come to your classroom? Just to get into the school. And so they would get to know me a little bit, and we would establish a relationship. Those relationships are critical.
So I think I made an assumption, and now I think I'm being corrected. So principals would have to invite you in, but then teachers would also have to invite you in. You didn't just show up in everyone's classroom. You went where people were willing to have you come.
I have evolved to showing up in everyone's classroom. It took time for that to happen. I would ask to go into teachers' classrooms, and then I would ask and then reach everybody to get into their classrooms because I knew I had to be in their classrooms. That's how it started off. And now I go into all classes for 10 to 15 minutes. And sometimes it's a little bit longer, but not much. And I think it will be even more streamlined as time goes by, just for snippets, because we don't have the luxury of time, but we do have to take some time and then introduce the practice. So like I said, it becomes a way of being, because what ends up happening as a result, the teachers are reporting more instruction time, more time to task as a result, which is counterintuitive. But the performances are changing. The performances of the staff, the performances of the students. And they themselves are noticing it. And I know that people around them notice it too.
Is there anything we haven't touched on that you think educators and parents who are participating in this summit might benefit from knowing?
I think people who are attending this summit may already know or may not know the importance of setting intention and knowing what the intention is. What's your purpose? What do you intend to do today, this week, this year? How do you want to be? What do you want to be? And to actually make that happen. And something that I reflect on in particular is what type of impact do you want to make, or what do you wish for one another and for the children in terms of your core values and beliefs? And what are you going to do about it? What are you waiting for? Yeah, we don't have time to wait, and we have to act on it now to change the world, because yes, we can, and it's up to me, and it's up to you. So no sense in waiting around. This quote I want to share is from Oprah Winfrey, where she says, "You are responsible for the energy that you create for yourself, and you're responsible for the energy that you bring to others." And I think that that's an important thing for me to embrace, as well as a quote that I have on my email signature of my own that says, "Let's make this happen."
Urgent patience. Thank you very much, Dr. Kathy Flynn-Somerville, for sharing with us your important work in Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. This has been fun.